Third example. All right, we want standard deviation. That's our goal. And our function is, it's a density function. We have 1/30th e to the negative x over 30. You had this one in chapter 3. It was actually one of your homework problems. This was the one about tread wear of a tire. And that's defined where x is greater than 0. Only for homework, last time you were doing the probability that you had a certain amount of miles. Right now we're not doing probability. We want to get all the way to standard deviation. So, and it's 0 elsewhere. Well, who cares? You know that part. Okay. So, I'm going to do the expected value of x squared first. I'm going to take that 1/30th out. We're going from 0 to positive infinity because there is no upper bound. And I'm going to do x squared e to the negative x over 30. All right, so you already should look at that and go, okay, this is going to take a while, which it is, because we have to do the integration by parts a couple times. So I'm going to do integration by parts. That means u is going to be this little x squared, and then dv will be the e to the negative x over 30. Do the derivative of u, that's 2x dx. Antiderivative of this one to get v, so that's e to the negative x over 30 divided by the derivative of the exponent, which is a fraction. And then, obviously, when you divide by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. So you get negative 30 e to the negative x over 30. So I've got my parts. Remember, integration by parts is u times v minus, oops, not equals, minus the integral of v du. No, yeah, okay. So let's do all that by parts. I'm going to do that in green. Now don't forget we still have this little 1/30th out here, so I'm going to bring it down just so I don't forget about them. So u times v is x squared times my oh, you know what? Let me reverse the order because I wasn't paying attention. So I'm doing u times v, so I've got x squared times this negative 30. I'm going to put negative 30 first, then x squared, then e to the negative x over 30, minus, and then my integral here of v, which is negative 30 e to the negative x over 30, times du, which is 2x. I got some cleanup that I need to do there. So everybody gets scooted up. And that closes that. So let's see, cleanup. I'm going to multiply these two together. Negative 30 times 2 is negative 60. And I want to bring that negative 60 all the way out. So in these little brackets here, let me just recopy that. When I bring the negative 60 out, with that 60, it becomes plus 60. Then my integral here, I still have that x. That x didn't go anywhere. X times e to the negative x over 30. That whole chunk, we still have this little 1/30th here. I tell you what, just for confusion's sake or lack of confusion's sake or whatever, I'm going to go ahead and bring that 30 in. So it's 30 times the first expression, 1/30th times the whole second thing. That'll just reduce these numbers a little bit. So when I do that, I get, now what's left is just negative x squared, negative 1, x squared e to the negative x over 30, plus 2, 60 divided by that 30 there. So I have 2xe to the negative x over 30. All right, that's where I am now. You're going to have to do parts again. So I'm going to do these parts in blue. The u is going to be the x. The dv is going to be that e to the negative x over 30. And so du is dx, or just 1, whatever you want to call it. And then this antiderivative, I already did that above, so I already know it's going to be this. So I can just write it there, negative 30 times e, whoops, to the negative x over 30. So my u times v, I get negative 30, and then an x, and then e to the negative x over 30. That's u times v, minus the integral of v du. So that's just this. Okay. Now, I still have this little 2 out here in green, so all this is being multiplied by the 2, and then you still have this little thing out here that you have to add. So, but I still have a lot of cleanup to do. So let's scoot again and just keep on going. All right, so cleanup. I'm going to focus my cleanup here. I'm going to bring that negative 30 out. So that'll be plus 30. Then all that's left is that little e expression. I already know what that is. I've done it now. This will be the third time I've done it. I know that gives me negative 30 e to the negative x over 30. And when you multiply it times that 30, you get negative 900. So right now, inside the little brackets here, I have negative 30x e to the negative x over 30 minus 900, because I got 30 times negative 30 e to the negative x over 30. I've got all that I got to multiply by 2. And then I have this little negative x squared, so I'm just bringing that down. E to the negative x over 30. Distribute my little 2. Good gravy, this is forever. Oh, somehow I changed that to 32, but that's 30. Or maybe I just couldn't read my writing. Minus 60x e to the negative x over 30 minus 1800 e to the negative x over 30. And that's it. So I'm ready to plug in my values. This one went from 0 to positive infinity. So now remember, we talked about this in class. When you plug in positive infinity for these x values, you have e to the negative. Once you plug in positive infinity, you get negative infinity for your exponent, and e to the negative infinity approaches 0. So every e value is going to approach 0. The limit's going to be 0, which zeroes out all 3 of these expressions. So when you plug in positive infinity, you get 0 for all 3 of those. Now when you plug in 0 for x, well, the first one, when you plug in 0, it zeroes out the whole thing. The second one, when you plug in 0, it zeroes out the whole thing. But the third one, when you plug in 0 for x, you get 0 for your exponent. And we know e to the 0 power is equal to just 1. So I end up with negative 1800 for that. And obviously that gives you a final value of 1800. And that's my expected value of the x squared part. Okay, so I started with the x squared part. So that's my first number right there. I got to remember that because that's the first part of my formula for finding standard deviation. So now we do that whole thing again, although the second time it'll be shorter because I only have to do an integration by parts once. So let's do it all again. I have, golly, I forgot what that original thing was. Oh yeah, it was 1/30. We're going from 0 to positive infinity. This time I'm just doing x to the first times my e to the negative x over 30. Last time I did x squared. This time I'm just doing x. I only have to do integration by parts once. So those are my 2 parts. And derivative of u is just dx. It's just 1. So I'm done with that one. Antiderivative here, we've done this again a million times. We know we get negative 30e to the negative x over 30. So do your uv. We still have this little 1/30 out front here. So we have negative 30x e to the negative x over 30. That's what you get when you do u times v. Minus, there's my integral symbol, v du. So that's all that. And we end that bracket there. I gotta scoot everybody up. Can I scoot this more? Yeah. Okay. So pull the positive 130, not 130, pull the positive 30 out is what I would do here. Negative 30x e to the negative x over 30 plus 30. Then we have e to the negative x over 30 in here. We know what that's going to be. That gives us negative 30 e to the negative x over 30. Multiply these two. It's getting kind of jumbled up there. So I've still got my little 1/30th out here. I'm not forgetting about that. So far inside I have negative 30x e to the negative x over 30. When I multiply these two, I get negative 900 e to the negative x over 30. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that 1/30th. So I get negative x e to the negative x over 30, because those 30's cancel here. Minus, that just gives me 30 e to the negative x over 30. So that shrunk up. That's not too bad. I think I have everything in there. And we're going from 0 to infinity. When you apply infinity, we talked about it again, when you have e to the negative infinity, it approaches 0. So when we plug in positive infinity, it zeroes out both of those expressions. Now when I plug in 0, to the first, so I get 0 with positive infinity, then that gives me 0 minus 30 when I plug in 0 for x. So it gives me positive 30 for a final expression. That's e to the x. Okay, now remember, you have to square that quantity. So when we square it, we get 900. Now I'm ready to use my formula. So I got 1800 for e to the x squared. Not e2 though, but e of x squared. And I got 900 when I did expected value of x, the quantity squared. So that gives me 900. That's the variance. So for the standard deviation, I get 30. And that's that.